Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Hall of Femme, a podcast by Femme Forte. It's been a minute. With me today, I have two very exciting guests who are going to tell us about themselves very shortly, and we are going to talk about something very interesting, which is digital spaces. This conversation is in line, obviously, it's a timely conversation because today we just kicked off 16 Days of Activism. So we thought we'd get together and have a conversation about what it means to exist online as a woman, the pressure that comes with that, the resilience that you have to build with everything that happens online. Because, we both know that whereas these platforms come with a lot of opportunity. Some of us study online. Guilty over here. We study online. We work online. People with remote jobs. People with in communication that have to use the internet. Etc. Etc. We build communities online. Networks really across countries, across time zones, and things like that. But with all these nice things that, quote unquote, nice that we've just shared, also comes all the negative sides that we've seen with the internet. And that's what we are kind of here to talk about. But before we get into that, we'll start with quick introductions. So once again, my name is Samantha Agasha, and I work with Femme Forte Uganda, and
Thank you, Agasha. I am Poni Ayikoru, and I am a lawyer by profession. I actively practice in governance and development work around human rights, policy, and movement building in the community. Yeah.
over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's exciting to be part of this show. My name is Anzoa, and I am a lawyer as well. I am the president of the Mentoring and Empowerment Program for Women, a community of young girls doing a lot of women empowerment work, feminist leadership, amongst other things. I also serve on the board of FIDA, and yes, do a lot of exciting things as well. Thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to be hanging out with these ladies today. So I wanted to start off with us talking about how digital spaces or just digital platforms intersect with our lives. As I mentioned, there's the learning, the working, the fun bit, there's people building communities, etc., etc. So let's just speak specifically to how those spaces manifest in your life, and then we can build from there. We'll start with you, Pesh.
Well, thank you once again. So, the whole concept of digital field really makes me think about the much potential that you've already mentioned, but also there's so much harm that it comes with, especially to the women and girls that we see today. So for me, generally, when someone speaks about, the digital spaces or digital violence or whatever it is, first that comes to my mind is the definition of the term. For someone listening out there, what could this be? This could be, of course, any platform that you use to express yourself. It could be for work, for whatever it is that you do, even your social life. But then the violence part of it is manifested in ways when people misuse these platforms to infringe on your rights, to infringe on your peace, in that every time you're loading your data, you're thinking about what is going to trend next, what about my post is going to be spoken about or screenshotted or shared or downloaded and whatnot. So for me, really, I've been able to leverage this space in my personal branding because I have met a lot of people online. It's like a global market, really, where you meet so many people online and you've even never met them physically, and you connect, you share ideas, you meet very many youthful people around, and keep building into the work that you're doing. But then as an individual, I've not faced any violence in its sense on these spaces, but I've been an observer. I have seen very many people come on these spaces and take on the brutal, what I want to call the brutal bites, as in bites of digital bites. So they often face fear to even, use these spaces. So that's briefly what I can say about the whole experience of the digital field and violence in itself. It's something that keeps moving so much. The UN Women recently called it a continuum of violence against women. As you rightly said, we are in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So I would really want to speak so much about the violence bit about it. Yeah. So the fact that it's a continuum of this, it means we cannot be blind to what is happening offline. Yeah. But all that violence that is being done on the streets, in homes, in communities, in offices, is now being carried online. So that means there's a lot that needs to be done. Yeah.
Thank you, Pesh. Sarah, specifically, the question I want to ask is, because you mentioned doing work around women empowerment, and so just anyway, as Pesh has mentioned, that a lot of the inequalities that women have been facing since time immemorial are now being carried onto the online platforms. So what do these women empowerment programs look like, especially if you're thinking including digital literacy? Is that something you're already doing? Is that something you're looking into? How does that work?
All right, thank you for that. Now, firstly, it starts from a point of how we had previously normalized digital violence. And while I was here, I just remember the times we used to actively use Facebook. Remember those Asian people who used to call nonstop, and then when you pick by mistake, you see a body part as a 12-year-old. That is a bit, trust me, it was very traumatizing. And then especially when you had
vulgar messages.
It was terrible. And then when Messenger came on board, they would keep on calling you, and your phone is just by vibrating. Yeah. And then by then, it was about like 10 years ago, but we were not talking about these things actively. True. Now. So it's really exciting that now we get to talk about it. So we, from the women's empowerment perspective, the first step for us is the sensitization, the digital literacy that you talk about. Yeah. When people know that this is violence, then perhaps they can go ahead and maybe take measures on how they can address this, because by then, over 10 people from that particular area in the world would continue calling you. And we didn't know what to do, So we need to know what to do. Firstly, that this is wrong, that it's not normal, because then we thought it was normal. Then we know how can we report, because those days you block and then they use another, So how do we then end this cycle? So firstly, for us, it's from the place of sensitization, which we are doing very heavily, both at MEMPRO and FIDA, where I serve, and also now the Umoja Women's Coalition. We are doing a lot of sensitization around that. But then also, whereas the people know, if they know, what are they going to do? Yeah. That means we need to hold governments and the tech companies accountable as well. Yes. And now the advocacy towards the tech companies have to grow heavier, because when one Anzoa from Kampala, Kagugube, has reports a case of TGBV. Yes. They are going to ask me, those many questions they ask, describe it, send a screenshot of the type of the abuse, and then you take all these things, some of the things you do not understand. Then it takes like perhaps 1 or 2 days for them to pull down the post. If a woman in Europe, I was discussing with some of my colleagues who are in diaspora, when a woman in Europe reports TGBV, immediately the post, within a very few minutes, it's pulled down. Now, firstly, because some of the abusive things that are done here in Uganda, perhaps done in Luganda. Imagine someone comes on your post and they're like, Konkaria. Yeah.
That's true.
Or
so
says,
you can't report.
Or someone says something in Lubara or in Madi, and then the algorithms do not understand these languages. That means it's not inclusive. So how can the tech companies be more inclusive? Can they have bigger bases in Africa and better translate and understand our languages so that they can be able to curb this thing quicker and things of that category? So also advocacy on that side, then advocacy from the side of government. Yes, we have the Computer Misuse Act. How can we implement it better? Do the Mwananchi or do the normal, the common people in society, do they know? Do we understand the Computer Misuse Act? So that means there is sensitization on the side of the public. Then there's accountability from tech platforms. Then also holding the government accountable at the end of the day.
Okay, that is. You've given us a lot more than we bargained, but thank you so much for actually touching on some of these things. We'll try and flesh them out as the conversation continues. So the first thing that you talked about was awareness. And I think first, we already still have a huge challenge with people offline understanding what GBV is. now there's an added element of now we have to say online GBV. And so what does that mean? Because the other day I made a post on my status and I was talking about online GBV, and I got a lot of queries, people asking me, what's this now? It's like people think that we sit here and come up with terms and come up with terms in our head, and then so I had to just like get a screenshot and say here's where you start. So I think where I would like us to go right now is to sort of call out some of these manifestations of online GBV. And I think one, you've talked about some of it, like there's rude as comment. They're not even rude. There's comment, it's harassment, really. I don't want to call them rude comments that people leave on posts. But I think one thing that really, and I'm using the word stresses my life very lightly, is, there was this thing where you put up your picture and then people say, Grok, take off the top or something like that. And I don't know, is that still happening? I'm not actually sure. But that's, like, for a long time, take off the top. And then what's funny is that they were doing that for people with, like, that are fully clothed. And then if you're wearing revealing clothes, then they would dress you up. So, like, what's you see, like, there's no winning. You're fully clothed, they undress you. You're wearing a mini skirt or something, then they fully dress you. So which is it? And then I think I also wanted to draw us to, I think it was last week when Ira Star, I don't know what her real name is, she made a cute selfie, put up a post, and, like she was feeling herself. And then just some random ex-user just came and used AI to, I think, deepfakes to just, like, make nudes and then just, like, put them up. Just casually, like that. But one thing I was glad that I think a lot of the Nigerians on the timeline came quickly to, I think she was even offline. But by the time she came back, I think people had reported the account and it had come back. And so I think that's, for me, the biggest thing that is still like a problem on these platforms. And like you said, some of these things are very blatant, but you will report and then they'll say we didn't find an issue with this post. And then, like, now what's where we'd go? What's the next place for us to go? So that's one thing that I needed to point out, but I need us to talk about all the different ways in which GBV manifests online so that people know what we're talking about and where to look, and also to know that when they see these things, they shouldn't reshare. There's that thing where you quote the tweet and now you give it more followers because when you quote to say, oh my God, please don't do this, then it has now moved to your timeline, and then someone on your timeline will also carry, and then now the post has gone viral. But it's viral because people in the quotes are saying, please don't do this. So let's talk about that, ladies.
Well, it's interesting how the conversation is running, and for me, I'm thinking about how the world does not even have one way of calling the whole form of violence. There are people who say online violence, there are people who say digital violence, tech facilitated. So it's all over the place. And I think it's important that nations come together and have a whole terminology around it, because that is then going to give us the basis for legalizing how we punish, make penalties for people who violate this digital space. But also beyond that, when you speak about the perpetrators, I think there is two forms of perpetrators. There is the primary ones, the ones who actually initiate the whole violence, the ones who post, the ones who create all these pseudo spaces, accounts, catfishes and whatnot, without even profile pictures. And then there's the secondary perpetrators, where many of us actually fall, knowingly or unknowingly. Because for you, like you said, you can repost with a comment and you want to stop this vice, but then you're creating more visibility for it. Or you're trying to share and download in a WhatsApp group and say, guys, let's end digital violence, but by sharing it, you're already spreading the news.
Yeah.
So it's quite sad. And when you speak about the different forms, I think there's so many forms, and these forms keep coming up every day. That means even the government itself should stop making laws that are just are reactive in nature. Laws where every year you're going to be in parliament trying to amend, I don't know, the Computer Misuse Act to add a new definition of a form of violence. These laws have to have future proofing. They have to be able to use the word not limited to, so that if any other forms of violence online come up, they're already under this law, so that we do not even have to use our resources in all these spaces. A few of these examples I would mention, there's stalking, which I think many people in the US, I have read about how they have a stalking act or something like that. So stalking is such a big thing. It's as big as race, using the word racial discrimination. And yet in our African countries, or even just in Uganda, it's even used as a humorous word. Like, oh my God, why are you stalking me and all that?
As a
well,
joke,
exactly. While many people who are stalked online are actually killed sometimes offline, which is quite sad. There is trolling. People are always trolling you for whatever you've posted. There's I tend to avoid the use of the word revenge porn. So it is using images without consent. Exactly.
No, please, you need to ask for permission.
Because when you put that on Twitter, people are going to zoom in and be like, did this one not know where they were going? The shoes, what? But you posted yourself, you look nice.
And sadly, these things, we do them unknowingly sometimes, but then you don't know the impact it comes with. Like we have said, it also affects people. The same impact that offline violence or physical violence and any other form of violence causes on women and girls is the same that the digital one causes, like the mental illnesses, the different challenges that people face. So for me, really, I think those forms keep increasing, the deep fakes that are there. AI is literally supposed to be helpful, but it's doing more harm than good. Exactly, doxing. It's crazy. I recently was thinking about the whole aspect or concept of the right to be forgotten. If I did something 7 years ago, why are you bringing it up in 2025?
Until the right to be forgotten.
Yes, I need to have a right to be forgotten.
People must know that we are friends.
Exactly. No, if you told me 7 years ago, and honestly, that thing happened and it was a whole, I watched the internet and whatnot, there should be a time limit to using that content. 3 years down the road when you use it, I should be able to sue you, because people are going to continue that act. People will bring things from 1900. I don't know where. Like, especially if it is without your consent. Leave alone these other things of you being a politician or in a public office, because of course what you say can be used against you for accountability. But if it is individual, you're abusing the person of, of being a woman, of being a girl, you're going sexual, you're going ethnic in nature or race, you're going into my culture, my age and all that, then that is harassment in itself. So I think there's just a lot around the whole concept of the digital violence. The government should even start investing in virtual policing units, where we have accounts that can be tagged to monitor, and they should be trained in how to receive digital violence. If I am being violated, I just need to tag them like how you tag FBI, and they'll just have to get a sign-on and come to your rescue online. They'll have to know, and even the reporting mechanisms themselves should be very streamlined, and that way we shall actually achieve what these acts say. But right now, the legislation in itself is not helpful if no one knows about it, because it doesn't help at all. And just as I conclude, you mentioned something about how these platforms usually, of course, you're allowed to report an account and all that. I recently tried it. I tried to report an account and said I was being harassed and whatnot. They told me, we have looked into this page and we find no problem with it, with the actions of the perpetrator. Please give us a review. And then the review question was one, were you satisfied? Oh no, I was so angry. And I just said, I'm not satisfied, but there's nothing else. You're not even interested in knowing why I'm not satisfied. So it's going to reach a point where governments need to work with these social media pages so that whenever someone flags off violence, harassment, or they feel threatened, it should be merged to the policing units, so that justice actually comes as opposed to being spoken of. It's quite sad.
I think what the platforms have become, or what they've always been, and it's just now been blown out of proportion, if I can put it like that, is just quite sad to see. I mean, it's profits. You don't give a hoot about what the people online are thinking. I don't know if I should ask, but I was debating whether to ask about the new X feature where you can just see where someone's account is, their location. They just give like a country. Like, it's not much, but I don't think that is information that anyone really wanted to know. And so now this information is being used to like target accounts, because people have always had accounts in sight and thinking like, where does this person, which country? And so now people have just been using it to harass people in Palestine and all those things, because of VPN, so the locations are not accurate. So it's just like, oh, you've been collecting money, but you're not even things like that. And I don't know, across the board, I don't know what, because the feature is relatively still new, so there's still time to see what will become of it. But I thought that's something I should hint on. So, Sarah, talk to us about the ways in which, because one thing I've realized is that not all, but some people think that what happens online stays online, sort of like a Vegas situation, yeah? So they're just like, oh, like, it's not serious online. Someone wants to troll you online, and then when you meet in person, then they're like, oh, hi, Sarah, long time no see. Well, but dude, like, what's the disconnect? That's the thing. Like, someone wants to troll you online, and then when you meet in person, then they're like, oh, hi, Sarah, long time no see. Well, but dude, like, what's the disconnect? That's the thing. And I've seen that a lot of people approach online versus offline that way, and they forget that if you put a picture of me where, I don't know, my butt was showing because the pants were, I don't know, somehow, and I'm trolled like that, that could easily spill into my actual life offline. And I don't think that some people realize how deep that is. But also, I think we've had quite a number of examples of ladies, I don't want to mention to re-traumatize, but like people who have had their nudes come out and lost their jobs as a result of that. Like, that should show you that things that happen online are in fact that deep, because they transfer into people's lives. So I thought we'd talk briefly about that as well.
All right. So firstly, the online space is now a place of its own. The same way we have the Femme Forte offices as a place, the online space is now a place. And as time goes on, tech industries are doing everything possible to make it like a real, actual place. Yes. So that means the same way things happen here are the same way the effect of things that happen there move. Now, starting from the impact of some of that technologically facilitated gender-based violence acts are, now, since the online place is a place of its own, yes, it's affecting people's mental health. It is affecting people's professional life, because I now know of employment agencies where if they want to employ you, they're going to go online.
Look at your socials,
and yes, they look at your socials, but they'll also now, there's that app that talks about everywhere. Like, perhaps your name has been mentioned. Maybe it's a news channel. Maybe it's a post and stuff like that. Every time you Google yourself, there's that app that comes out. Meaning, wrong information about someone is going out there. Now, that's even now a crime of its own. That's defamation as well. Libel. So all these things are challenges. So that means, while for you think you're having fun and saying things about how somebody looks and stuff like that, a company now is like, but can I really hire Pesh? Is it good for our optics as an organization? So you are endangering someone. And I think those are areas people should sue not just for the GBV online, but also loss of economic, because it's affecting you professionally and stuff like that. So we had spoken about the referral pathways. Now, the reason why we are questioning the referral pathways, firstly, it means that they are weak. And for a referral pathway to be weak is because government hasn't properly structured. Now, the ones that I refer to are those by civil society. Now, at FIDA, we have a toll-free line, and we have been encouraging people that when you have a challenge online, kindly report to us. And what are we going to do? We are going to file a suit. We are going to go to court, because even if we go to police, just as she has mentioned, the police is going to be like, okay, what do you explain properly? Give us explain properly. What do you want us to do?
And some of these platforms, they don't even know.
They do not know them. On X, exactly. Maybe she say TikTok, so they do not know these things. That means for anything to move, for any program to move, government has to take the first hand. So when you people speak about government putting a lot of money towards this, investing towards this, it's very important. Otherwise, the referral pathways will continue being blurry, meaning people can't walk towards them to get justice at the end of the day. So then it's quite a big challenge, because civil society, Femme Forte, giving people opportunities to come and perhaps get therapy or maybe go and report and things like that, that is not going to work, and that is not going to end the
because you
challenge.
Can't do it for everyone anyway.
Exactly. And you see, government is in grassroots, and government is with the local government, is with the police and all these bodies, and we need a collective arm towards fighting for this particular thing. So I think for that referral pathways, that is such an area for them to touch base on. And maybe just to touch on the conversation that you put around Twitter. Now, we as feminists, for a very long time, we have been speaking about capitalism. And again, in TGBV, capitalism manifests itself again. Because for them, all they care about is their profit. So they're trying new features. How do we make this more exciting? Not how do we make this safer? That means we as users of these platforms now have to hold them more accountable. I remember during that time when people were using Grok to undress people, I remember there was a very big outcry around it, and Elon Musk had to come and apologize and told the people that he's going to work on it. So I don't know if you guys have been seeing that a lot now.
It has reduced. I wouldn't say gone completely, but it's reduced.
So we continue quarreling.
Yes.
So that means at the end of the day, because capitalists and governments work together because they are one and the same. That means at the end of the day, even government might not help us. So we as the users of these apps have to stand up. We have to scream. We have to push and demand until they make these spaces conducive for us, because they are because of us. Yes?
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you so much. So what I wanted to ask next is, what do you ladies do to stay grounded online? Because remember, in the introduction, we talked about the pressure that comes with being visible as a woman and the resilience you kind of have to build to continue. There's I don't want to say a group, but there's like a number of Ugandan feminists that I see on my timeline every single day, every issue that comes up. They're there doing the educating work, the awareness work, they're making noise, they're making people uncomfortable, and I love that. But I think about how much it takes a toll on them emotionally, and I thought we'd talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so indeed, in the work that we do, we face so much harassment. It could come in ways that we even do not know that manifests as harassment. And then it's after some time that we sit down and are like, oh, wait, I actually didn't feel comfortable at that point. I actually felt unsafe, So for me, really, what I do, the bare minimum, blocking, because I have the power on my phone to block. So whether it's an individual, and if you're blocked online, trust me, you're blocked offline. Yes, there is no way you're going to come, because when you compromise the offline bit, the person will think, oh, we're still in good terms, and whatever I did can just slide away easily. No. As young people, as women also, in whatever space that you're in, I think it's just important to know, to set up boundaries in whatever that you do. So for me, even there are pages that post content that maybe I'm not comfortable with, I'll block that page, because the thing with social media is whatever you like or accept to view for a few seconds becomes your feed. Even when you've not engaged on it, just because you pause the bit, you're scrolling, the next time the same content is going to come. And then the other thing is I'm constantly looking for knowledge around digital safety, and wanting to learn from experts in the field about how to keep safe. And of course, the long rule of the toothbrush rule of changing every 3 months still applies also to the passwords. It might not be as much as 3 months, but at least try and make different passwords for your different social media platforms. Avoid tapping links, any kinds of
links
links.
that you
Nowadays
don't
they use the
understand,
people
yeah.
closest to us, so that you actually feel like you can trust them, and then you end up being bombarded or being hacked. It already starts from that. And then the other thing that I think has saved me a lot also is I do not give time to every comment that comes on my feed. Actually, what I do sometimes when I post something and someone comes with negative energy in the comment section, I delete the comment and block the person, because it's me to
your
surround
space.
myself with whatever space and energy that I want. Or sometimes you just need to ignore them. I mean, most times they're looking for likes and engagement. So when you give them the attention, you give them power over you, which is not what women need to actually embody in the work that we do. We should always know where the power lies, and to understand that we actually can do a lot within ourselves. And the other best thing also is just really speaking about it. The more you speak about it, the more someone who hasn't faced that kind of violence, or who does not know what to do in such a situation, will listen to you, try and embody whatever you've done. And then, like Sarah said, with the grok thing and the use of AI, many people spoke up about it. So that is the beauty about digital spaces, that something happening in Uganda can reach, I don't know, any other space, any other country. So it's borderless. And so we need to also leverage on that in whatever we do, and create an online movement of people who have the same energy. And before you know it, we shall overpower whatever negativity is around. And we don't need to wait for the government to help you run your account. You need to already start where you are, and the rest will fall in line. Yeah.
I think quickly before we come to you, Sarah, I wanted to talk about the funniest thing, rage bait.
Yeah.
And so it was very amusing to me that people are just intentionally being dumb on the internet and provoking anger out of you, just so they can get paid, because a lot of those accounts are verified, and sometimes you won't tell because now Elon gave them the option to hide the blue tick, so you won't know that they're getting paid off you being angry. So they're just intentionally just trying to get a rise of you. Those things where people are like, or you say, oh, misogyny, da, da, da. The other time someone said feminists made up the term medical misogyny. And then they asked him to Google, and then he was like, no, but you can literally just educate me. No, just Google. And they're just doing these things intentionally, just so they can, get you in a back and forth, get more views and all these things. And then at the end of the month, they're getting paid off getting you annoyed. So I thought it's such an amusing thing, but that's where the platforms are at right now. And the fact that we even have a term for it is just ridiculous, because why is that a thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, how about you?
Yes, so firstly, GBV in itself has been there for the longest time, since time memorial, and up to now we are still fighting GBV. And then now we have TGBV. That means we still have a long way to deal with it. Of course, we are going to continue advocating and pushing for laws and policies, but then it's unfortunately it still might be amidst us, meaning we have to build resilience mechanisms. Now personally, first of all, one of the reasons why I got active on social media is because of Poni. She's my mentor, by the way. Nice. So I realized that, and that's so cute. So I realized that I needed to start branding. I was doing a lot of great work out there, but then I was scared to come online because of the perception I was going to get from people. Now, the violence online may not only just be people maybe abusing or sexualizing. Someone may just be like, now she's showing off her work. Now she wants people to see that she's speaking at a conference. You get it? And of course, that anything that affects you negatively, is violence. So for me, that was my biggest fear of coming online. So when I came online, I knew I'm here for business strictly. I post and go. And then of course recently on my ex, I posted, I was with underaged girls, schoolgirls, very underaged. We got consent to post the pictures, because it's part of a program we were doing. And someone came and commented and it's like, so you went to do abortion for those. Oh my God. You went to do abortion for those, And maybe if I was at a campus event, these were baby girls, no hair on their head. And then they were saying such a comment. Now imagine their parents saw that, and all that stuff. So at that point, and then I try to delete the comment. How do they delete comments on X? I failed to
We'll
delete
show
the,
you after
Let's show you.
this.
Yeah.
We'll show you
I
after
failed
this.
to delete the comment. So, but then I just moved. So for me, my first trick is I use social media only professionally and I leave. But then I get some pleasure, for example, from IG. So I have non-professional accounts that I use just to look at reels and things like that. So I do separate these things. But then also, there's a Bible verse that says, for you to deal with anger or getting annoyed at someone, expect that every day someone is going to annoy you. Like, we need to just expect it. And so I know, one day you're going to annoy me. So like, chill. So you build like a muscle around it. And Pesh talks about sharing, speaking about these issues. They do make you feel lighter. And people usually do self-blaming, especially we ladies. We do, okay, maybe my skirt was short. Maybe it was me. But then I would like whoever watching this, it's not you. It actually is not you. Just as she said, it is them. They want to intentionally piss you off. So do not slay self-blame. And psychologically, self-blame is one of the most painful things ever. And people end up when they talk about maybe something you posted, then you feel so bad about it, then you go and read it like 10 times, trying to look for where you made the mistake, and yet what you're saying is valid. Then people who are determined to disagree with you, and there's nothing you can ever do about that. So just keep on doing the work that you're doing, get therapy, build a muscle around it, and let's keep on advocating. Let's continue speaking up and standing with each other. So when I see something on your page, a friend of mine launched a period pad, a pad company in South Sudan, and some gentlemen came and they were saying, so she was with the president's daughter, they were launching the pad, so they came and then they were saying so many bad things about, the entire thing, and saying, that's not even South Sudanese made, you imported it from somewhere and stuff like that, trying to put her down. So me and my friends were there encouraging, support, this is so great and stuff. For us, we are with you. So
Okay, so very quickly, what you'd mentioned, I think one thing that, again, I wanted to emphasize is the importance of, like you said, solidarity and support networks. I don't know, most of the times when we are going through things like, I don't know, a million other women and other girls are either going through the same thing at the same time or have been through it. So it's always important or always nice to, I don't know, confide in someone, speak to a friend, find networks that, talk about these things and help you build the resilience that you need to, because, we're talking about how the online violence spills offline, because then the result is, if you don't feel supported enough, or if you feel like, this space is now so toxic, you leave the app altogether. And I don't know, you're a lawyer, you have great opinions, you leave the app, we've lost something. Pesh leaves the app, we've lost something. There's a young girl somewhere in Makere or something looking for a mentor, like you said, looking for a mentor who is going to come across your tweet and say, I like the way this person expresses themselves. And then we'll reach out, or we'll just try to emulate the things you do. So if you end up pulling off the platform, then that young girl ends up missing out. Not to say that you should carry the burden of, I shouldn't get off the platform, but it's nice to try and build support networks and try and build resilience to stay on the app, because we need your voices. As Sarah said, we need to piss off the higher ups so they can care about our safety on those platforms. So, ladies, parting shots?
Well, it's been a really interesting conversation to have. All I can say is that from what we have heard, there's a lot of digital violence going on. It wears new clothes every day. You just need to be woke, learn how to, safeguard yourself. Do not just quit before you even start. At least try and be there. Use it to leverage whatever successes that you've had. I was recently inspired by the hashtag, look at that chick, that degree on that chick.
Look at that,
and I think that's the energy we should carry around. And whenever you find any post that you really feel like you should affirm, at least leave a like. It's not a must to retweet, but at least leave a like, and the person will feel better at whatever they're doing. And above all, it's really important that as our government or civil societies take shape in trying to ensure access for justice for people who are harassed online, we need to invest highly on the kind of laws that are there that have to be futuristic in order to to embody all the future kinds of violence that will come about. But also beyond that, we need to highly invest in virtual policing, because we can't again start having to look for transport or energy to go to an actual police station for violence that has been perpetrated online. We need to think in the world that is moving technologically. Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right, thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation. Now, especially violence comes in when someone negatively inflicts something on you. And that means every time you have an interaction online and then you feel down a certain way, that is a form of violence, because your brain, when it catches up with anything negative, it sends a sadness neuron to your brain, and then you feel the sadness. So don't blame yourself. Don't think that you are the problem. Now, every time you feel that discomfort, that is violence in itself. So people need to become aware of these things so that they can know how to go about it. And of course, just as Pesh has mentioned, we have to enforce mechanisms on how we curb this, on how we advocate against it, on how we hold perpetrators accountable, and also call upon tech companies, especially because they are the key stakeholders in this. They have the power to ensure that this is ended. So as a collective of the women's movement, what can we do to ensure that these companies are held accountable, but also for women who have experienced extreme danger or have gone through a lot online? Can they get reparations from these tech companies? Perhaps something happened to her online, she tried to address the issue, and then, they didn't give it as much attention because they didn't regard it as tech violence, and then she lost her job or a source of income, or maybe family. Can she have reparations in that regard? So much action to be done here, and together we can.
I don't know if there is more for me to say after both Pesh and Sarah have wrapped up that beautifully. So I will just say thank you all for hanging out with us in the Hall of Fame. It was a very interesting conversation, and we hope to catch you online and in the next podcast. Bye-bye.